Hartley-Brewer. Well, apart from the World Cup, the big talk this morning is about what the Labour leader Keir Starmer is going to tell the CBI, Confederation of British Industry, today when he attends their conference, when he's going to say, according to the advances of his speech, that Britain must end its economic dependence on immigration and that the days of low pay and cheap labour are over. Well, let's talk about this with Jonathan Reynolds, Labour MP and Shadow Business Secretary. Good morning to you.
Good morning,
Julia. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. I mean, this seems like something of a bit of a U-turn by Keir Starmer. He was all in favour of cheap immigrant labour only a few years ago. What changed?
Well, let me first of all say what Keir is going to say today, OK? So there are major skills and labour shortages in the British economy. It's the number one issue that businesses raise. With me, they would be the same, I'm sure, if they came on the shore, Julia. So the system's got to work better for them. But what we are saying is, if a business wants to bring somebody, additional workers into this country, what we expect alongside that is a clear plan for additional skills, training, investments in pay and conditions, or investments in new technology, which means that, look, immigration will always play a role in our economy. We should be proud of people wanting to come to this country to do that, but it's just not the sole means of meeting skills and labour shortages. I think that's a better system for businesses. I think it's a better system for the country, and I think it's a way to respond to what business is asking for, what it needs, at the same time as giving a system that would command public support.
I mean, it's all very well. I mean, I couldn't agree more that we should be making sure we're actually investing in our own people, both young and old, training them up. The idea that somehow we don't have enough people in this country to do a lot of these jobs is quite absurd. But it is going to involve a higher pay. It's probably going to involve, frankly, a few of the screws being tightened on benefit claimants who are perfectly capable of working, just don't want to do certain other kinds of work. But also, it's all very well bringing anybody into this country. If they're not a net contributor and they don't bring their own house with them on their back, they're going to create problems for the people who are already here, aren't they? Every time we talk about bringing in labour to keep business going, and the CBI Director General talking about the vital importance of having this supply of labour, no one's building the houses that are needed. We've had millions more people under Labour and the Tories in the last couple of decades, but no one decided to build enough houses for them to live in. No new schools for their children to go to. No new GP surgeries or GPs and nurses are trained up to carry out their health care. Every time we get one new person in this country who can't completely fend for themselves, which is very few of the immigrants to this country, we're just imposing a burden on the native population.
Well, no, I wouldn't agree with that, Julia. I think that's not the correct representation of the role that immigration plays.
Where do these people live?
All of the things
and where do their kids go to school?
Let me just finish the point, Julia. All of the things you've just mentioned are policy issues we have the power to resolve as a country ourselves. You cannot have a strong economy that delivers on any of that for anyone who lives here unless you've got people with the right skills willing to be in the labour market. I agree with you. There are a lot of economically inactive people in the UK. I don't think it's about people claiming benefits. The main issue is poor health, and actually our plan, for instance, to expand the NHS workforce in order to make sure that people are getting the health care they need, they're not languishing on long-term NHS waiting lists, is part of the answer to that. But look, we shouldn't be down on people who want to come to this country and make a contribution, but it has to be alongside proper investment
wait a second. No, I'm sorry. Stop. Let me stop you. Jonathan, no one is criticising. I've got nothing but respect and admiration for anyone who wants to leave their home country, make a new life for themselves in this country or any other, and earn a living. All credit to those people. The trouble is they don't come to make a contribution to this country. They come to better themselves. And again, nothing wrong with that. The trouble is, are they a net contributor to our economic benefit? And the reality is, unless you're earning a very good whack, you're bringing amazingly crucial skills, you're not a net contributor. The idea that we don't have enough people in this country well enough to make coffee, clear tables in restaurants and pick fruit is an abject nonsense.
Oh, no, I think every independent academic study into the role of immigration shows the net benefits that immigration brings.
No, they don't.
I think we should be absolutely clear
that's not true.
About that. Yes,
that's
they do.
Not true,
yes,
Jonathan.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Not
where
true.
there are sectors dependent on immigration, all we are saying is, if that is playing a role, it has to be matched with a corresponding investment in pay and conditions, skills and training, or new technology. I mean, we really lag behind a lot of our competitors on things like industrial robotics and the role that could play, for instance, in manufacturing. And businesses will say to me, look, we can't do enough of that because we need also people to maintain that machinery, to introduce it. If they want to do that under our plans, they'll have to make sure they've got that long-term plan so that they're not just solely looking to immigration as a mean to fill those skills and labour shortages. And I think that's the right balance.
Well, I would certainly support that. But again, lots of people are saying this is a really cynical appeal to those red wall Labour voters who, in the Midlands and the North, who went off to Boris Johnson and the Tories back in 2019. Those votes are up for grabs right now. A lot of those people are very unhappy with what the government is doing and the difficulties they're under right now. And this is just a naked appeal to them. But actually, Keir Starmer and the Labour front bench, you don't believe a word of this stuff. You're actually still, frankly, like an awful lot of front bench Tories, including the Chancellor, very much pro sort of EU, open borders, mass immigration. You think that's the solution to everything. And do you think voters are going to trust you on this?
Julie, we couldn't be any more explicit in putting forward an alternative to that. And look, there's no one in British politics suggesting we relive the arguments about whether or not we should be a member of the European Union.
That's literally what's happening right now, Jonathan.
That works for the UK. Well, there might be speculation from the government, Julie, but frankly, you know, I don't even know what government policy is at the minute, one day to the next.
True, you're quite right, neither do I.
And the presentation of it is genuinely quite hard to follow. I think what we're putting forward here, first of all, there's nothing cynical about trying to have an immigration system that meets the needs of businesses and the economy, but gives the right kind of balance going forward. And as you know, I represent a bit of what is called the red wall that is still red. And all people ask me for is a system that works, yes, for what the economy needs, but also strikes the kind of balance that we're putting forward. And if you're willing to listen to that, I think you come up with the kind of proposals Keir is presenting today. And, you know, frankly, contrasting that, Boris Johnson himself was a pro-immigration Conservative politician. So it's not about any kind of cynical correction or response to that. It's about getting the right policy that we need for the country going forward. And I think that's what everyone should be looking at and trying to deliver.
I know we haven't got much time, so I'm just going to race through a couple of questions. Quick answers, if you would. Ofgem have basically criticised pretty much all 17 of the energy companies, saying they are not doing enough to help vulnerable people. Picked out 5 in particular. Do we need sort of stricter controls on energy companies in terms of how they are supposed to help those who are most in need in this, as winter approaches?
Well, it's not good. The regulator is right to highlight these things. The companies have got to respond to that. Many of them do have fairly decent programmes, but they've got to be proactive, and that's clearly not what they've been doing at the moment. OK, and IPSA, the Parliamentary Authority on MPs' Expenses, has ruled for the first time that MPs can claim public money to have their Christmas parties, Christmas costs, Christmas decorations, refreshments, not alcohol, interestingly. So a pretty rubbish Christmas party with I don't know, lemonade and what's-its. But should any MP be claiming on the public purse to provide a party for their staff? No, and I doubt any MPs have even asked for this or will do that. This is IPSA, the independent regulator, putting forward some proposals I think no one has asked for. A little bit naive, to be honest, but I'll be taking my staff out to thank them for the job they do for me, and I'll be paying for that myself in the usual way. OK, also it's so much that Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister, of course, is registered with a private GP, guaranteeing same-day appointments. It used to be the case, and it's the case in large parts of the rest of the world, that you're guaranteed a same-day appointment with your GP. Not in the UK for many people, sadly. But is that an issue for you, that the Prime Minister is registered with a private GP? No, it's not something I would ever do. I'm not going to comment on anyone else's healthcare choices, but I would say what the country really needs is some investment in the NHS workforce. We would do that by abolishing the non-dom rule, expand the workforce, get people the care that they need, and people can make their own decisions whether their leaders, their politicians are aware of the genuine problems they face when accessing healthcare, and they can decide who's got the best policies to alleviate some of that going forward themselves. OK, and just finally, World Cup, fantastic start for England, fantastic start for Wales as well, with that 1-1 draw with the USA. The decision not to wear those armbands, but taking of the knee. Do you think the England team should steer clear of politics on the pitch? Talk freely about racism and LGBT rights and things off the pitch, but on the pitch, stick to just playing the game? No, I think, well, first of all, it was a great start, and it's great to see England scoring some goals at the start of a tournament. But these England players, I think, are real role models. I really admire the way they speak out on issues, whether that's homophobia in sport or racism in society. I blame FIFA for the fiasco of the armbands issue. It's, you know, been frankly one fiasco from one to another with FIFA so far, but I don't blame the England players in any way for that. All right, Jonathan Reynolds, we'll let you go. Thank you so much for joining us, Labour MP, Shadow Business Secretary. Thank you for that.